Hello everyone, this is News Distillate, your go-to source for daily news updates, where we will provide you with the latest news without wasting your time. Without further ado, let's dive into our news for today.
Thank you, Zaid. Today we're talking about the Commonwealth and what it means for the countries that are part of it. The Commonwealth is a group of 56 countries, many of which have a history of being part of the British Empire. Now that King Charles III has been crowned, people are asking if the Commonwealth is still relevant. We're going to look at this from an economic point of view and see what the Caribbean countries are thinking about their relationship with the UK. The Commonwealth is a great way for countries to share resources and ideas. For example, if a country needs help with a certain issue, they can ask the other countries in the Commonwealth for help. This is especially helpful for the Caribbean countries, who often don't have access to the same resources as other countries. They can use the Commonwealth to get the help they need. The Commonwealth also provides a platform for countries to discuss important issues. This is especially important for the Caribbean countries who often don't have a voice in international forums. Through the Commonwealth, they can make sure their voices are heard. The Commonwealth also provides a way for countries to trade with each other. This is especially important for the Caribbean countries who often don't have access to the same markets as other countries. Through the Commonwealth, they can access markets they wouldn't otherwise be able to. Finally, the Commonwealth provides a way for countries to work together on important issues. This is especially important for the Caribbean countries who often don't have the same resources as other countries. Through the Commonwealth, they can work together to tackle issues like climate change and poverty. So what's the Commonwealth good for? It's a great way for countries to share resources and ideas, discuss important issues, trade with each other, and work together on important issues. It's a great way for the Caribbean countries to make sure their voices are heard and get the help they need. So what news do you have for us today, Zaid?
Thank you, Emma. As the violence in Sudan continues to escalate, many are being forced to flee their homes in search of safety. Muja Khatib and her son were among those who had to make the difficult decision to leave their home and everything they had behind. Our sources have provided us with excerpts from the audio diary that Khatib recorded as they undertook their harrowing journey. I can only imagine the fear and uncertainty that Muja and her son must have felt as they left their home. Thankfully, the Commonwealth is providing a safe haven for those who have been displaced, offering a chance for a better life. It's truly a blessing that Muja and her son were able to make it out of Sudan and find refuge. It's heartbreaking to think of all the people who are still stuck in Sudan, unable to escape the violence. We can only hope that the situation in Sudan will improve soon and that those who have been displaced will be able to return to their homes. At the same time, we must remember that the Commonwealth is providing a safe haven for those who have been displaced, and we should be thankful for that. It's a difficult situation, but it's encouraging to see that there are people out there who are willing to help those in need. So let's take a moment to appreciate the efforts of the Commonwealth and all those who are helping those who have been displaced. We should also keep Muja and her son in our thoughts and prayers as they continue to adjust to their new life. Back to you, Emma.
Thank you, Zaid. As the situation in Sudan worsens and California's epic snowpack melts, it's important to understand the potential impacts on the state. Our sources report that unseasonably warm temperatures are causing the snowpack to melt, and with it comes the potential for flooding. We followed the path of the Kaweah River, which begins in Sequoia National Park and empties into Tulare Lake, to get a sense of how local, state, and federal officials are preparing for the flood. At 7,000 feet of elevation in a wooded basin along the Marble Fork of the Kaweah, the snow is giant. The visitor center is buried and all of the cabins are cloaked in snow. Across the landscape, there is feet of water in some locations. Already it's starting to melt. The Kaweah River hasn't seen a major increase in flows from snowmelt yet, but peak runoff is expected late May or June. The first major piece of human-built infrastructure on the Kaweah River, a 60-year-old earthen dam built across a canyon near the valley floor, is helping to manage the water. It serves as a speed bump, allowing water to pool behind the dam before being released downstream in managed spurts. Downstream, Mark Larson is one of the tens of thousands of people living in the Kaweah watershed. His job is to help manage the water coming out of the Terminus Dam. In most years, nearly all of the water that comes down the Kaweah watershed is used up by dairy farms and the almond, pistachio, and alfalfa growers he helps serve. This year, between the atmospheric rivers and snowpack, Larson said, "We have more water coming into our system than we've managed since 1955. That's more than farms or towns can take. As a result, much of it is being released downstream toward Tulare Lake and Corcoran. At the Kaweah River's terminus in the Tulare Lake Basin, more than 100 square miles of land is already flooded. George and Judy Mendez have been anxiously watching the waters rise. They live in the northeast corner of Corcoran, near the lake's historic shore, just a couple of 100 yards from the city's main protective levee. State and local water officials expect water to remain in Tulare Lake for as long as 2 years. City officials are confident the levee around Corcoran will hold when the thaw accelerates because of the work being done to raise and reinforce it. But the Mendez family, which owns a water tank business, has made plans in case it doesn't. California's epic snowpack melting is a reminder of the power of Mother Nature and the importance of being prepared for the unexpected. We can't control the river, but we can take steps to protect ourselves and our communities. Back to you, Zaid.
Thank you, Emma. It's Zaid here, and I'm here to tell you about the latest news regarding President Biden's plan to protect airline passengers. It's no secret that the winter season brought with it a lot of flight delays and cancellations, leaving passengers stranded and out of pocket. But now, the Biden administration is taking action to make sure that passengers are compensated for any preventable delays and cancellations. Basically, the new regulations would require airlines to pay passengers for their meals, hotel rooms, and rebooking fees if their flights are delayed or cancelled due to something that could have been avoided. This means that if an airline messes up, passengers will be able to get some money back for their troubles. This is something that's already in place in Canada and the European Union, and it's been shown to reduce flight delays in the EU. The Transportation Department is also currently investigating Southwest Airlines, who had a lot of flight disruptions over the holidays. Southwest CEO Gary Watterson apologised for the disruption and the inconvenience it caused passengers and employees. So if you're planning on flying this summer, you can rest assured that the Biden administration is doing its best to make sure that you're not left out of pocket if something goes wrong. And if you do experience a delay or cancellation, you might be able to get some money back. Back to you, Emma.
Thank you, Zaid. It's a wild world out there, and today we're talking about something that's been making waves in the news: giant blobs of seaweed washing up on Florida's beaches. This seaweed is called sargassum, and it's been around for centuries, but it's been showing up in greater numbers in recent years. It's a real problem for beach towns like Key West, where the smell alone can be costly. But it's not all bad news. Sargassum can also store carbon, and some entrepreneurs are looking for creative ways to make use of it. So what is sargassum? It's a type of buoyant, rootless algae that bunches up in islands and floats around the ocean. It's part of a 5,000-mile-long belt of seaweed that circulates between the Gulf of Mexico and the mid-Atlantic. The top bloom season is still days away, but already sargassum beachings are increasing. For beach towns, removing sargassum from the beach is about the only option for dealing with it, but disposing of it is another challenge entirely. One of the more promising ideas comes from a UK startup called Seaweed Generation. They're building an autonomous robot that could intercept sargassum patches close to shore, drag them back out to the open ocean, and force them to sink to a depth of 1,000 meters, trapping the carbon in the ocean. In the meantime, the best option for an individual concerned with sargassum may well be patience or avoidance. Effects are very, very local, so you may find one bay with a huge amount of sargassum and the next bay with absolutely none. So there you have it. Giant blobs of seaweed are hitting Florida, and that's when the real problem begins. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Emma. This woman's story of embracing the wild and natural is a breath of fresh air compared to the challenge of dealing with the sargassum washing up on Florida's beaches. She's showing us that beauty can be found in the untamed and that it takes a lot of hard work to make it happen. Camille Dungy, a poet, loves people who talk kindly to plants. Dungy herself has done a lot of hard work in her garden, clearing out hundreds of pounds of rock, amending the soil and turning it with shovel and pitchfork until she was drenched in sweat. I can relate to Dungy's garden journey, as I too have replaced my lawn with native perennials that are friendly to pollinators. Dungy has filled her backyard with native grasses like blue grama and little blue stem, and with perennials like penstemon, bee balm, baptisia, echinacea, and Lewis flax. She's also left some tall dried grasses from last season, as well as the dead stalks from her milkweed and sunflowers, to create winter interest and provide a place for native pollinators to nest and lay their eggs. When Dungy first moved to Fort Collins, the local homeowners association had strict rules against non-standard landscaping. But now the city has an initiative to encourage diversification of the landscape, and Dungy's garden is a testament to that. Her garden attracts bees, butterflies, and all kinds of birds, as well as mountain cottontail rabbits who nibble on her plants. Dungy says that thinking about land is, for her, inextricably linked with thinking about this country's history and about race. She's constantly reminded of the labour of enslaved black people who were forced to work the soil and of the Native Americans forced from their lands. but at the same time, she finds solace in her garden as it teaches her patience and that the work of a politically engaged person often requires true patience. Dungy is showing us that beauty can be found in the untamed and that it takes a lot of hard work to make it happen. She's also showing us that we can find solace in our gardens and that the work of a politically engaged person often requires true patience.